Hello, everyone. Today I want to share a story that intertwines love, ambition, heartache, and ultimately redemption. It is a tale about Arthur and Chloe, a couple who, after 19 years of marriage, find themselves at a crossroads, faced with unsettling discoveries and choices that will redefine them both. Arthur is a dedicated and passionate architect, a man who pours his heart into both his professional responsibilities and his family. At 46 years old, he reflects on a life crafted with care, a solid career, two beautiful children, Lila, a 15-year-old navigating the treacherous waters of adolescence, and Finn, an imaginative 11-year-old with dreams larger than life. The family's home in a bustling Portland suburb is not just a physical space, but a sanctuary filled with laughter, shared meals, and memories that span nearly 2 decades. Chloe, Arthur's wife, is a driven marketing director for a prominent tech firm, a role she embraced with tenacity and passion. At 43 years old, she has proven herself to be a force in her industry, recognized for her creativity and strategic thinking. She and Arthur built a life together on shared ambition and quiet affection, or so he thought. Yet beneath the surface, their marriage had gradually settled into a routine that veiled the slow but steady erosion of intimacy and connection. As the years rolled on, Arthur often reflected on their relationship, struggling to reconcile the woman he married with the woman he now cohabited with. Chloe's laughter, once bright and spontaneous, had dimmed, replaced with an air of criticism and withdrawal. It felt as though a shadow had crept between them, a widening chasm that Arthur desperately wanted to bridge. Despite his noble efforts, from spontaneous date nights to thoughtful gifts, Chloe seemed perpetually out of reach, her heart adrift and unwilling to anchor back home. But Arthur remained hopeful. Family adventures and memorable moments were still abundant in their lives, even if they felt less vibrant than before. He poured his energy into being an attentive father, throwing himself into Finn's soccer games and Lila's school projects, all while secretly yearning for the affection he and Chloe once shared. He often asked himself where it had all gone wrong, and like many men, he sought counsel in the wisdom of online forums, searching for ways to reconnect. Yet each attempt felt hollow, almost futile against Chloe's growing indifference. It was only when Arthur noticed subtle changes in Chloe's behavior that the first cracks of suspicion began to form. Over the past year, a chilly distance crept into their conversations. Chloe had become increasingly critical, questioning his career choices and manifesting irritation at his attempts to rekindle their romance. It began with veiled comparisons to her colleague Marcus, a man she admired for his apparent innovation. The seeds of doubt took root in Arthur's heart, but he opted to dismiss them, attributing their struggles to the exhaustion of busy lives and the natural ebb and flow of marriage. The final blow to Arthur's illusion of a secure relationship came one brisk November evening. As he busied himself in the kitchen, preparing a calming cup of tea, he overheard fragments of laughter wafting from the living room. Intrigued, he wandered closer, only to find Chloe in animated conversation on the phone. The laugh echoed in a way that felt jarringly out of place. It struck a discord in his heart. When he entered the room to greet her, she flinched, hurriedly stashing her phone under a cushion, a gesture tinged with guilt. Her eyes flashed with a brief moment of irritation as she silenced the call, a flicker that made Arthur's stomach drop. That night, as he lay awake beside her, the weight of uncertainty pressed heavily against his chest. There were whispers echoing in his mind, and the secrets she had woven before him were threatening to unravel. Seeking clarity, Arthur began to scrutinize their lives for signs that might confirm the suspicions that now gnawed at him. It was with casual diligence that he glanced at their shared credit card statement, only to find recurring charges from a luxurious hotel and upscale restaurants, all coinciding with her unexplained late nights. A surge of adrenaline flooded through him as he felt the first tremors of betrayal. He could not shake the uneasy feeling that Chloe was living a life he was not privy to. Increasingly tormented by doubt, Arthur turned to technology for answers he could no longer trust Chloe to provide. He discreetly installed a tracking app on one of their shared family tablets, versions of their lives now interlaced with digital breadcrumbs, all of which led him deeper into the labyrinth of his suspicions. As he began to piece together the evidence, Arthur, the ever-dedicated husband, started to transform into a man on a mission, searching for the truth buried beneath layers of deceit. The once serene sanctuary of their home felt like a cauldron bubbling with unspoken truths, ready to erupt into chaos. As the days unfolded, Arthur knew he stood on the precipice of a heart-wrenching confrontation, unaware of the emotional storm that awaited him, a storm that would change their family forever. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the discovery of the affair and its immediate aftermath, exploring the chaos, anguish, and eventual resolve that would dismantle a once happy family and pave the way for their individual journeys towards healing and redemption. The chill of November settled over Portland, casting a gray shroud over the vibrant city Arthur had once loved, exploring with Chloe. As he stood in their cozy kitchen, preparing tea to unwind after a long day, he found himself lost in thought. The kettle hissed and bubbled, but it was not the sound of water boiling that held his attention. It was the unshakable sense of unease that had taken root in his heart over the past year and a half. Chloe had changed, and Arthur could feel it like the cold seep of winter air through a poorly insulated window. She appeared withdrawn, almost critical of him, frequently questioning his career choices and downplaying his attempts to reignite the spark that once burned brightly between them. What was once warm and inviting had slowly morphed into a place of silence, where every attempt at connection felt met with indifference. Arthur could not understand why he felt like an outsider in his own home, but he desperately wanted to bridge the widening chasm. Their love had always thrived on shared ambition, a partnership that balanced both their dreams for success with the comfort of companionship. At least that was how it had begun. Now Arthur was left wrestling with the disheartening realization that those foundational pillars had eroded beneath them, leaving chaos and uncertainty in their wake. The shift in Chloe was subtle yet profound, characterized by fleeting moments of judgment, unsolicited advice, and passive-aggressive comments under the guise of concern. It seemed as if she had forgotten the man who had once been her biggest supporter. The turning point came on an ordinary evening, one that felt anything but predictable. Chloe had taken to spending longer hours at the office, her excuses growing strained in their believability. Arthur offered to help, suggesting romantic weekends a way to reconnect, yet each proposition was met with an apathetic shrug or a new reason for why they could not go. Chloe's behavior alarmed him, and still Arthur sought support in online relationship forums, hoping to find solutions to repair their bond. His gut twisted with apprehension whenever he heard her talking on the phone, laughing softly in that private way that sent waves of anxiety coursing through him. The whispers gliding through his mind echoed louder each time he caught glimpses of her innocence. The final blow to Arthur's fragile state of mind struck on a brisk November evening, while he prepared tea. Something as simple yet complex as trust began to unravel. It was the moment his heart dropped into a pit when he overheard Chloe in the living room, her voice light and airy, engaged in hushed laughter that felt explicitly exclusionary. As he stepped further into the room, curious and concerned, everything shifted. Chloe's startled face betrayed a fleeting moment of guilt. She quickly hushed up the call, shoving her phone under a cushion, as if to hide evidence of a secret he had never signed up to share. Her eyes flickered with irritation as she stood frozen, a stark contrast to the warmth he once knew in their love. "Everything okay?" he managed to ask, fear creeping into his tone, yet Chloe's quick dismissal did little to settle the growing storm in Arthur's heart. "Just a work call," she assured him, brushing past his concerns like it was nothing. But the laughter that had drifted like smoke lingered in his thoughts, casting shadows where there was once light. The unease morphed into something darker, and he could feel it pulsating through the walls of their home. In that moment, Arthur's trust began its slow erosion as the realization of a more complex betrayal seeped into his consciousness. Days turned into weeks, each one filled with swirling thoughts and nagging doubts. It was not just a fleeting fear, it became an obsession, a relentless search for the truth hidden beneath layers of deception. His instincts screamed at him to seek verification, to confirm the murmurings of betrayal that had taken root within him. With quiet determination, he scanned their shared credit card statement, his heart racing as he noticed small, recurring charges from a hotel and restaurant that were wholly inconsistent with Chloe's work schedule. Every rushing pulse only deepened his resolve. Arthur turned to technology, installing a tracking app on a family tablet they used, hoping it would shed light on Chloe's unexplained late nights and suspicious behavior. It was the act of a desperate man grasping for answers in a sea of uncertainty. The app revealed a chilling pattern, confirming his fears. Dates of absence matched hotel stays and late-night rendezvous at Marcus's address. The abyss into which his marriage had been drawn felt like a dark chasm, and all he could do was stare into it, feeling both lost and betrayed. Each revelation was like a stab to his heart. He vacillated between disbelief and anger, feeling as though he were on the brink of madness. How had the woman he loved, the woman he fought for so fiercely, found herself entwined in such betrayal? Or perhaps it had all been there, lurking beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to expose itself. And so, as days passed, turned into the bitter chill of December, a decision began to take root within him. He could no longer live in the shadows of doubt. He needed answers. And most importantly, he needed to confront the painful reality that had unfolded around him, one that was hidden beneath the guise of normalcy and domesticity. Stay tuned as we delve into the strategic exposure and confrontation of truths that would irrevocably change Arthur and the landscape of his family. The confrontation would not merely expose a betrayal, it would dismantle the very fabric of their shared reality, forcing them to grapple with the weight of their choices and with each other. As the brilliant hues of early December began to wrap around Portland, Arthur found himself ensnared in the stark contrast between his internal turmoil and the picturesque tranquility outside. Backlit by a waning sun, his heart felt heavy, and yet a resolute decision started to crystallize. The weeks that stretched into a painful eternity since he first uncovered Chloe's secret had been a tumultuous ride on a roller coaster of emotions, anger, betrayal, disbelief, all swirling violently within him. Yet the flickering flame of hope, ignited by the desire for clarity, pushed him forward. It was time to confront the hidden truths lurking just beneath the surface. Initially, he found solace in the glow of self-help books on infidelity, breathing in ideas about healing and reconciliation. He clung to the belief that the love they once shared could somehow be salvaged. The possibility that there could still be a path back to intimacy and trust appealed to a deep-seated yearning for the life they had built together, a life he cherished dearly. But each time Arthur attempted to reach out to Chloe to reconnect, he met the same wall of indifference that had grown since the affair began. This was no ordinary burden. It was a wall fortified by deception and disconnection, and he felt weary of pushing against it alone. Then, on a particularly dreary night, the weight of his discoveries bore down upon him further when Chloe nonchalantly claimed she was ensnared in a marathon conference call that would take her into the early hours. Desperation surged through him as he took a beat to compose himself. Armed with the knowledge gained from a close friend in the IT department, Arthur accessed to corporate remote login records, confirming Chloe had not logged in from home that evening, nor had she been at the office. His heart raced, pounding against his ribcage like a wild drum. This was no mere coincidence. It was the final thread leading him toward the imminent confrontation. He had gathered pieces of evidence that painted a lamentable picture, a collage illustrating betrayal set against a backdrop of broken promises. While Chloe did not yet know it, the truth about to unfold would shift their worlds irrevocably. Prefigured by the shadows growing long across their living room, there was an inevitable collision approaching, and Arthur sought help from an unexpected source. It was Eleanor, Marcus's long-term partner, who had become an ally in his journey towards seeking clarity. Contacting her in secret took immense courage. After all, it meant acknowledging that their shared lives were interwoven in a manner that felt both exquisite and unbearably painful. Together, Arthur and Eleanor turned their information into a systematic approach, a careful dissection of documents and correspondence that would showcase the depth of the betrayal. Eleanor was equally blindsided by Marcus's affair. The connection they discovered grew from shared anguish, an unspoken pact forged in mutual pain, laying the groundwork for their next moves. They traded notes with feverish intensity, gathering honed evidence that would expose the disintegration of the two families they had believed would withstand anything. As the December rain fell softly outside, cloaking the night in solitude, Arthur knew the time had come to confront Chloe, to take the power back from the shadows that lingered over their home. Days later, he orchestrated what would be an unbelievable chain of events. A careful ruse unfolded the normalcy of a mediation meeting in an upscale coffee shop, laced with the falsehood of discussing family plans. This moment would be anything but ordinary. On the day of reckoning, nerves fluttered in his stomach, a tempest of emotions waging war inside him. The coffee shop buzzed with activity around them, muffled conversations and laughter enveloping them like a shroud. Arthur watched as Chloe entered, flanked by Marcus and icy dread coiling tightly around him. Here among strangers, he would set the stage for the unraveling of facades and the revealing of truths. With a cool exterior, he sat across from Chloe, heart racing, as Eleanor strode in, her presence presaging the upheaval destined to unfold. In that relentless moment, Arthur placed the divorce papers squarely on the table between them, the manner in which they hit the mahogany surface echoing the finality of their decisions. "Chloe, it is time for the truth," he declared, the words heavy yet resolute. He spread the carefully compiled dossier of evidence, like a fragile flower blooming amidst the chaos, bitter testimonies of nights cloaked in deceit. Chloe's face drained of color as panic set in. Her confidence gave way to disbelief, hoisted by shaken brows and widening eyes. "Arthur, this isn't what it looks like," she attempted to plead, words rushing from her lips as Marcus's palpable discomfort grew. Yet before the air filled with excuses and denial, Eleanor stepped forward and served Marcus his own set of papers, declaring, "Our 19 years and your 3 years of deceit end here." Stifled whispers and incredulous gasps floated through the bustling coffee shop, scenes of chaos erupting across their once normal cosmos. In that shared moment of devastation, Arthur realized that he was not merely exposing an affair, he was dismantling the veneer of their shared lives. As the world around them spun into chaos, hearts shattered and walls crumbled, the fragments of their past became starkly apparent. At that moment, Arthur felt the weight of clarity, the bittersweet relief that often accompanies the dissolution of illusions. They stood on the precipice of their new realities, forced to confront the truth as it laid bare before them, stripping away the comforts of denial. Stay with us as we move forward into the aftermath, where both Arthur and Chloe grapple with the emotional consequences of the confrontation, and where Arthur's resolve strengthens, laying the groundwork for his journey of healing and discovery amid the wreckage of their marriage. As the winter storms swept through Portland, clashing against the backdrop of Arthur's life, he faced the painful consequences of the confrontation that had irrevocably altered their family dynamics. The coffee shop, once a place of laughter and connection between Chloe and Marcus, had transformed into a battleground of raw emotions and shattered trust. The heartfelt facade they had built over 19 years was crumbling, leaving behind a trail of confusion, anger, and unmet expectations. In the days following the explosive revelation, both Chloe and Marcus strived to minimize the gravity of their actions. They painted their affair as a mere fleeting mistake, a stress-induced anomaly that you could chalk up to the chaos of life. It was a moment of weakness, Marcus murmured defensively, as though his words could somehow erase the emotional scars they had carved into their families. Chloe, too, clung to this feigned innocence, pleading with Arthur for forgiveness, claiming it was not who she truly was, a desperate bid to reclaim her lost empire. Arthur felt a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The urge to forgive, to recapture the happiness of their past, fought against deeper feelings of betrayal and anger that clawed at his insides. He struggled with the notion of reconciliation, but as he read the emails overflowing with apologies from Chloe, he could sense a hollowness in her words. They were too polished, too rehearsed. "I have been lost and confused," she wrote in one particularly emotional message, insisting that her infidelity did not reflect her true self. But Arthur was left unsettled, convinced that her supposed remorse was merely a reaction to the fallout of being caught, rather than a genuine reflection of regret. As Arthur sifted through this tapestry of mixed signals, he recognized the importance of protecting himself and his children. At the core of this tumult was his unwavering commitment to Lila and Finn. Having gathered them together in their comfortable living room, Arthur approached the difficult conversation with caution. "Your mother and I are going to be living apart," he gently conveyed, carefully watching for signs of confusion or heartbreak on their faces. Their response was laced with sorrow, and yet both children seemed to understand the gravity of the situation, rallying around their father in a show of unconditional support. They deserved stability in their lives, and Arthur vowed to ensure their well-being even amidst chaos. Finn, in his innocent way, articulated a longing that resonated within Arthur, whispering a wish for things to return to normal. It broke his heart to think how the innocence of childhood had been so abruptly disrupted. However, Arthur, buoyed by the resilience he saw in his children, understood that normalcy could evolve into something new, perhaps even better. Yet deep within him, a persistent voice urged caution. Could he truly trust Chloe again? Could they navigate a future riddled with the same discontent and disconnection that had brought them to this juncture? Eventually, dissent between Arthur and Chloe transformed into open confrontation. Chloe's frustration bubbled over, branding Arthur as vindictive and stuck in the past for his refusal to consider reconciliation. "You can at least try to forgive," she pleaded, her tone desperate, urging him for a second chance. Yet, in the wake of the deception he had uncovered, Arthur felt only disillusionment. There was a stark contrast between her emotional demonstrations now and the long silences that had characterized their marriage in recent years. The fire that once sparked intimacy seemed woefully absent, replaced instead by bitter clashing. As Chloe struggled with her sense of entitlement to Arthur's affection, she grew increasingly combative, often berating him for maintaining a friendly rapport with Eleanor. This connection provided Arthur with solace, a reminder of the warmth he had missed for years, a bond forged not from betrayal but from shared heartbreak. Eleanor had been a steadfast companion in his moment of grief, their daily exchanges becoming lifelines that reminded him he was not alone in navigating these tumultuous waters. Little did Chloe realize that Arthur's growing friendship with Eleanor was a source of strength, a reclamation of the very intimacy he had longed to achieve with her. In shared moments of laughter and understanding, Arthur found comfort in the realization that he was deserving of happiness, that amidst sorrow joy could flourish anew. The emotional clash was stark, With each passing day, Chloe's desperation was further met with Arthur's resolve, creating a canyon of distance between their hearts that seemed insurmountable. Ultimately, Arthur solidified his understanding that healing did not equate to reconciliation. It was a path that was uniquely his. One filled with self-respect and a newfound focus on the life he could sculpt amidst the wreckage of their shared past. He would rise from the ashes of betrayal, ready to chart a course toward clarity and fulfillment. There was a flicker of hope within him, ignited by the certainty that although the road ahead would be challenging, it could also herald new beginnings, a life where he would build memories for his children, free from the shackles of deceit and disappointment. The weight of emotions lingered in the air, but Arthur felt an undeniable want for freedom. Freedom from bitterness and fear, freedom to embrace a new life. In the harshest of storms, he realized, clarity could emerge, and as the winter rain fell softly outside, Arthur resolved to reclaim his narrative, setting the stage for a new future. As spring began to emerge in Portland, bringing with it the promise of renewal, Arthur found himself navigating a terrain littered with emotional complexities. Following the turmoil of his life, he had entered a phase of therapy that was aimed not at reconciliation with Chloe, but to ensure a functional co-parenting relationship for Lila and Finn. He understood that healing was a multifaceted journey filled with moments of vulnerability, frustration, and resilience. During their joint counseling sessions, it became increasingly evident that Chloe's remorse was not as profound as he had hoped. He observed her attempts to shift discussions to the emotional turmoil she experienced during the marriage, a strategy that felt calculated rather than heartfelt. Arthur listened with a muted sense of frustration, recognizing patterns that mirrored their troubled communication in the past. "You want me to forgive you because you are hurting," he thought. "But this is not about your emotions alone. It is also about the damage to our family." Chloe frequently expressed fear about Arthur having a revenge affair with Eleanor, juxtaposing her insecurities against the newfound friendship that blossomed from shared pain. Arthur was keenly aware of the manipulation layered within these expressions. While he did have feelings for Eleanor that had developed from mutual understanding and support, he found himself committed to setting clear boundaries that acknowledged the hurt they had both endured without allowing Chloe's attempts at emotional blackmail to dictate his next steps. Eleanor had become an indispensable ally in his healing process. Their conversations layered with honesty, and shared experiences were starkly different from the emotional detachment Arthur had come to associate with Chloe. In Eleanor, Arthur found someone who resonated with his challenges and joys without the weight of betrayal that had characterized his marriage. Their bond grew in depth. It was a tentative friendship rooted in healing, but the emotional connection sparked in a way that felt transformative. As therapy sessions continued, Arthur saw glimmers of genuine distress from Chloe. She expressed feelings of loneliness and fear of being judged in the professional realm after the affair came to light. He noted the irony in this situation, as she had coaxed such feelings upon him throughout their marriage while prioritizing her career over their emotional connection. It was this realization that crystallized for Arthur the notion that Chloe's remorse still seemed tied solely to her own circumstances and not the pain she had inflicted upon him and their children. Meanwhile, things took a poignant turn when she proposed a post-nuptial agreement. Her intentions, wrapped in the guise of reconciliation, evoked a range of emotions within him. While her attempt to secure their relationship after divorce painted a picture of desperation, it felt unrealistic. Arthur expressed his skepticism, articulating that this offer felt like a weak, last-ditch effort to salvage a relationship that had long since eroded under the weight of betrayal. It was a poignant reminder that he had the power to redefine his boundaries, shaping a new narrative path, not marred by the emotional neglect that had previously suffocated his sense of self-worth. As Arthur distanced himself from Chloe's chaos, he found solace in Eleanor's companionship and unwavering support. Together they shared laughter, healing, and the promise of new beginnings. He had not anticipated how swiftly companionship could bloom, emerging from the ashes of heartbreak, yet it did so effortlessly. Each moment spent together reinforced the idea that love could emerge from the shadows of past failures, shining light on newfound possibilities. In time, they communicated candidly about their dreams, hopes, and vulnerabilities. Arthur could feel the shift within himself, experiencing a profound sense of vitality that he had not felt in years. This blooming relationship filled his heart with warmth, in stark contrast to the cold remnants of his marriage to Chloe. He began to embrace his worth, recognizing that he could choose a partner who cherished him rather than one who viewed him as a source of security. Amidst these changes, he could not ignore the struggle his children faced with the new dynamics introduced by separation. Lila and Finn, like any children navigating a family split, experienced their own grief. Arthur ensured that they had access to therapy, eager to promote healthy coping mechanisms, but also aware that the journey of healing was not linear. Insights bubbled to the surface during family discussions, each revealing a layer of complexity in the emotional landscape they were navigating. It was both heartbreaking and heartwarming, watching them process their feelings while collectively trying to make sense of a life that had taken an entirely new direction. The final therapy sessions with Chloe felt cathartic yet undeniably tense. As Arthur observed the transformation in both of their lives, it dawned on him that the emotional distance he had longed for was unmistakable. The cracks in their relationship, once filled with shared memories, were now replaced by understanding that they would not rebuild what had once been broken. He recognized that while forgiveness might elude him, acceptance of their new roles as co-parents was the key to healing. Walking away from the remnants of heartbreak would ultimately elevate his ability to be a present father, one more attuned to Lila and Finn's needs than to the echoes of Chloe's betrayal. As the therapy sessions concluded, he felt a profound sense of gratitude for the personal transformation he had experienced. He was not only a casualty of betrayal, but a survivor, ready to build a new life on a foundation of self-respect, understanding, and hope. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the complexities of Arthur's story. If you found inspiration and resonance in his path to healing and self-discovery, please give this video a thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to ensure you do not miss future stories of resilience and empowerment. Remember, every setback has the potential to lead to a stronger comeback. Until next time, take care of yourselves and keep striving for your own beautiful transformations.